The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys! This is Media Mash, a roundtable of Cowboys insiders dropping wisdom and offering sizzling takes on the current state of your Dallas Cowboys. Now, your host, Newy Scruggs.
Media Mash on Thursday. Let's ride. And we've got two insiders. The originator, none greater. He is Nick Eatman of DallasCowboys.com. We got John Machota of The Athletic. And I am really trying to figure out how to get hyped up for this game. Like, it's Houston. This is a bad team. This is a bad organization. It's the Governor's Cup. Yeah. It's a noon game. You know,
got a stack.
Right before we started the show, I said to him, I was like, "Can you name more than 5 players in the Houston Texans?" And obviously you can, but it's not as easy as you think. Like it's not a gimme there. This is as bad of a roster as I've ever seen in the NFL. Mm-hmm. I can't think of one. I mean, even the 0-16 Lions still had Calvin Johnson. You know, he still had some pieces that were like, "Oh, I can see this team, man." It's bad.
Yeah, it is bad. And you know, this is one of those where, like, if you were playing like Madden or, you know, the NCAA game back in the day, where this is one where like you got the stats. You know, this is a stats game. You can really pad the stats with stuff. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, they pay their guys too and all that, but not well. I mean, like, we say that all the time. They're like, well. They get paid too. Not the same though. They don't get paid like these guys get paid.
No, they may be in the same building, but they've got different views. There's no doubt about that. So, yeah, it's. I mean, literally, you're showing up Sunday because you love the Cowboys. I mean, you've had tickets and we're going, but man, this is one of those where literally. Hey, Nick, you love the Cowboys, man. You're my boy. Merry Christmas, man. Going to the game.
Go to the game?
Right. Yeah. Literally. That's just one of those because it's just like, oof.
I think it'll be – I always look forward to any game, but I think it'll be fun. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how they play. And, you know, there's always a game within the game, the storylines, and I'm sure you have a lot of them written down there. I mean, just you know, what happens? I mean, are you going to get a Pro Bowl – left tackle back this week? Is James Washington going to play this week? I mean, these are some things that, you know, everything kind of is ramping up to the playoffs and just little questions. And so, you know, I think that there's some storylines that are interesting for this one.
Yeah, I agree with those, and then also the Kelvin Joseph thing. Like,
yeah,
what does Kelvin Joseph, that number 2 corner spot?
How does he play?
Who steps up there? How does it look there? Is it Kelvin Joseph starts and is clean and solid all the way through, or is it shaky and Davis Mills is picking on him, and all of a sudden now you see some other guys out there? You know, that I'll give you that. That is those 3 that right there are some decent.
I think it's a great opponent for some of those question marks. You know, those things that you want to see. I think this is a good week for it. And, you know, Micah did not get a sack last week, and you know he's found himself in the news, and so I'm sure he'll be looking to get a few sacks, make a few plays in this game.
I remember talking to him. Buddy of mine, he was a coach, and back when he was in college, I said, is this kind of like when you were in school and you were facing one of those Oregon teams that weren't any good? Like, you know, hey, I can make all conference right now. Game like Houston Texans, hey, man, get a couple sacks, a couple touchdowns, you know. It's about time for Pro Bowl voting here. Like, all right,
stat game.
Coach, dial me up.
Yeah, somebody like a Jake Ferguson, you know, or even like I won't say Malik Davis. I mean, he might play some, but I mean, you know, just somebody that is like a second teamer that doesn't play a lot, but might play the whole second half of this game like that. And if we're getting ahead of it, that's just the way it is. I just do not think Houston can stay on the field with the Cowboys. If they're focused and they go out and just execute efficiently, I don't think Houston can stay on the field.
No, I don't either. But I also think there's a certain aspect of, you hope to see the Cowboys show up. And I just look back to last week's game and the way everything started to steamroll in that fourth quarter. A lot of that was done by young guys who they're not going to sit there and look at the Houston Texans and go, guys, this is the Texans. We don't have to, like you said, Hendershot, Ferguson, those guys. They want
Sam
Williams,
yeah.
Calvin Jones. Those guys are going to want to put out good tape. They're going to want to play well. I look at this as a game of, you just see look across the rest of the league, key injuries happen and things like that. You just want to be able to avoid that. If it gets to a point in the second half, go ahead and get DeMarcus Lawrence out of there. Get Zeke and Pollard and some of these guys. Let Malik Davis get touches in there.
Just put a guy like Tyron Smith in there.
Well,
you know what I mean? Just put it.
Even with Tyron, get him in there here and there, but you don't need to have him out there the entire time.
Stay on Malik Davis. Scored last week, and we don't know what Zeke's future will be. And it makes me think about Davis and just what do you think their comfortability is with him, and what kind of role do you think he could be working towards next season?
There's a lot of questions there on, what happens with Zeke, what happens with Pollard, do they draft the guy, and where? And so, but you still want a running back like him on your team. I think there's going to be a role for him. Rico Dowdle is still on IR, and he's a guy that they were excited about, but I think Malik has passed him. Because he's quick and he's big and strong, and I guess he's fast. I mean, you don't really have to be super fast at that position if you got some of those other traits. And so he has that. And now with a second year under his belt when that happens, I think he's somebody that, it'd be intriguing for sure.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of tough decisions in the offseason. You just try not to think about them right now because it's a whole – there's so many other things that come with it. But, it's a good point bringing it up because it is going to be something that they're going to have to be faced with. I know Skip Pete likes him a lot.
Yeah.
We got that chance to talk to him during the bye week. He talked about how he's not hesitant to put Malik Davis out there in big moments, and actions speak louder than words. They certainly did that in that second half, in that overtime of the Green Bay game. He had a huge carry. It would have been one of the biggest plays in the game if it wasn't called back for that holding call. So, no, I think the trust is there. They would prefer to, continue to have Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard, though. Yeah,
they get – go back to April. You get 30 visits to bring a guy in, and you're sitting here in the draft, and you can – I forgot where did they pick last year? 20, like low 20, wherever they got Tyler Smith. But,
Right.
You have an opportunity to get a lot of guys in here to look at first, second rounds. They brought in Malik Davis with their 30 picks and 30 visits, and he didn't get drafted. They ended up getting – but they obviously liked him. There was something about him that this staff liked to bring him in to visit with him.
I'm trying to think, who are the other number 3 backs that they've had recently? Because to me, he jumps off as he's better than who they would be. And so I guess I'm thinking the Rico Dowdle.
Would
you consider Lance Dunbar a number 3?
Yeah, I guess so, because he really wasn't.
He definitely had
some
juice, but
I think your best number 3 in a while was it's a Shard Choice.
Right.
It was a mid-round draft pick, so.
Yeah, 4th round pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I for me, when I saw that touchdown run and going back into camp, I just think of okay, along the way, Will McClay and his staff are looking at it. Okay, here's a guy that we like and could see more out of, and I'm probably finally getting my mind wrapped around it. Something could happen with Ezekiel Elliott, whether he takes a reduction in salary or they decide something could happen, because we're just seeing they got a lot of issues with this team roster-wise in terms of who you pay and where you go. So everyone cannot get paid, and you're going to have to figure out which young players allow you to spend money on some other players. And so Davis is that kind of guy. If you can get a number 2 or 3 play out of this running back, and because Pollard's staying, at minimum he's here on a franchise deal. He ain't going anywhere. I told somebody the other night, look, Tony Pollard's going to be here. So that's why I look at a guy like Davis, and I'll just be interested. A game like this against Houston, if you go out here, you handle your business. Him carrying the ball like we saw in the fourth quarter, it's not just going to be out here on a joyride. This guy's going to be running with a purpose, knowing that, okay, I want you guys to take me seriously as that I'm someone that you can count on and have a part of your future.
So to me, the way I feel is that running back is the easiest transition. Now, when I say easiest, I don't mean anybody can do it, but I think it's the smoothest transition from usually if you're a pretty good running back in high school, a lot of times those are the guys that get on the field and are pretty good as a freshman in college. And then vice versa. Usually the guys that are really good in college that come to the pros and get some time. If you compare it to all the other positions, I think it has the highest success rate of being able to carry over in year 1. And I'm saying that's not for everyone.
But what's your biggest concern within that? It's always the pass
blocking.
Yeah,
the pass
sure.
pro. Yeah, that's that thing. It's the pass pro, and these kind of situations. And look, hopefully you make the playoffs and nothing happens. But if you have to put him in a situation, and you got to get some blind. I mean, look at the poor Niners. I mean, he's dropping guys. So that's one where let's not. I would say. Pay attention, Cowboys fans. That's something to pay attention to.
Yeah, and if his, what do you have to have, pass protection? You got to have number one, you got to have the awareness, understanding what the blocking scheme looks like, and also, figuring out what other teams are trying to do, and then you got to have the strength to hold up and block. For him to be a rookie as a personal protector on the special teams right now, that's rare to have that position. He's out there a lot doing that. So the trust that Bones Fossil has for him to do that kind of shows he's a smart kid. He's tough. He can pick things up. So the sky's the limit for him. I think he's got a really, really bright future.
When you say that, I think that's a really important deal. I ended up talking to Buck Showalter today, the manager of the New York Mets. And
just on the street or bumped into him, or
I called him because they had the Jacob DeGrom press conference with the Rangers today, and I wasn't going to be able to be there because it was at 1.
I said, Buck, what's up?
Well, I just
because you know him from the Rangers.
Yeah, and I just said, all right, tell me about DeGrom. What do I need to know? And so Buck just he loves the arm. He's like, amazing arm. He says crazy. He's like, I have Randy Johnson. He's like, I've seen some arms. So he said the guy's got a crazy arm. But one thing I asked Buck a couple of years ago, I said, what's the biggest lesson you learned about how to win? He said, dumb players get you beat. He says, don't get dumb players. And when you talked about Davis being a punt protector, you cannot be dumb. You have to have a smart person who understands what to do because that will get you beat. I mean, too many times special teams play has turned around a football game, but that says something that Bones Fossil is trusting a rookie in a position like that because you can't see disaster there if you're not up on what you got to do.
I've heard Jimmy say the same thing, same exact line. Jimmy Johnson said that as well, and they kind of from the same school of thought there.
You read that book yet?
No,
it's good.
I bet it is.
It is good.
It's kind of
what are his chances of making the Ring of Honor now as opposed to before it came out? And I don't know what's in there, but I was told that's going to make it even a steeper hill to climb.
Yeah.
Here's what there's a whole chapter in Jerry and Me.
Mm-hmm.
One of the first times that he has admitted fault. Kept admitting different faults. Like, I could handle things different. Could have done things differently.
Jimmy said that?
Yes. So there's a lot in there. But his whole thing with he laid it out that, hey, this was the contract. I was in charge of the players, and I made these deals. So he said it straight there. But, Nick, I've always felt this way about Jerry and Jimmy thing. It'll come down to being a sentimental moment for Jerry. I mean, you guys have seen it now. I mean, Jerry will drop on you. He'll drop some tears in a minute now over a simple kind of question, and you never know what gets to him. I just hope that, because both men should be in the Ring of Honor, okay? Both of them. Have the honor while people can enjoy it and the people you love can enjoy it. Mm-hmm. I don't want to see anybody rolled out there, and we've seen this before, especially the Hall of Fame. Guys are out here getting inducted, can't talk. It's
going to happen this year.
They're dead. The moment should be enjoyed by the participant, their family, their coach, all those people. And you've been around all those folks who love Jimmy. They deserve that moment too. Because for some of them, like a Dave Vaughn says, never get in the Ring of Honor, okay? This is as close as guys like that get to. Darren Woodson, guy that Jimmy drafted. That's moments for people like that because of what he meant through his career. And then when Jerry goes in there, the same thing. For all the people that he helped bring along for this ride, that's their moment too. I'd like for both men to be able to have the moment where they could truly enjoy it. When people are not able to stand up or speak, or they're not around here to enjoy it, I just think that's a problem, and I'm hoping that Jerry at some point in time just does it. I spoke to Jimmy on a Zoom call. He says, you know what? Sooner he does it, then we'll all just stop talking about it. Mm-hmm. That's the truth in my opinion. Just do it, be over with.
But maybe it'll be too hard for him to get through that day or in that ceremony and having to do all that. I'm saying Jerry to do it for Jimmy. That might be too difficult where he doesn't want to do it. He just doesn't want him to get that honor. I mean, actions speak louder than words. It hasn't done it up to this point, so there has to be something there.
But you guys were there 2 years ago on the Monday night against the Eagles game, and while Cliff Harris was there along with Drew, you did it.
Yeah.
I mean, would it really be that much different?
No.
It wouldn't to us, but we're not the ones in charge. Books are put out, stories are told, but you don't ever really know everything. And so there still has to be something there that is deeply rooted to why this hasn't happened. Because let's be honest, you don't need to do Ring of Honor like, well, if they're going to do it, you're going to have to announce now because it has to be a year from now. No, you could actually go ahead and announce it like next week.
Do whenever you want.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And
hey, guys, tomorrow, guess what? Everybody come out next week because we're dropping this thing.
Attendance for the Texans game's down. We're going to do Jimmy in the Ring of Honor.
How quickly can you make the whatever the tiles are?
Hey, real quick, back to the Malik Davis thing. How many people do you think realize that Malik Davis and that Dameon Pierce from Houston were in the same college backfield last year? The reason I bring this up is because Florida hasn't been very good. One guy is the third string running back for the Cowboys. The other guy is having a good season, but it's for the Houston Texans. Like, I don't think a lot of people realize that these guys that could be the two backs on the field in the second half are guys that played in the same college back. I mean, I don't know. Did you know? I mean, with being an Arkansas fan, I didn't know if you knew that or not.
I found out like 15 seconds ago.
Okay.
I didn't. Honestly, this whole week it was one of those things I've been meaning to ask someone, like, where did Pierce go to school? Because usually
man.
I'll remember based off of that running back or whatever, and even if you would have said Florida running back, I wouldn't.
I'm seriously trying to think of the last Cowboys game I've covered where I've looked at the other opponent where you're just like, man, this is just not going to be
regular season.
Regular season, of course. Yeah,
that's what it looks like.
Not preseason, but regular season. I cannot think of the last time where I was like, I mean, 17 points in an NFL game is a lot.
That's unheard of. Yeah, man. That is unheard of. I mean,
what do I feel like it's going to be 10-3 Houston, like in the second quarter? We're going to be looking around like, going, what?
Yeah,
because they'll come up here ready to fight. And look, I actually did the Dallas Morning News picks, and I took Houston to cover.
To be honest with you, from my perspective as a writer, your scenario gives me more to write about than 52-7. Like, you can write about it and things like that, but you kind of look at it as like that. Well, that should have happened. It's easier to write about. Whoa, what happened here? Why was this a game?
They're going to face better teams in the playoffs than this.
Right. If they're doing this here, they're going to Christmas Eve against the Eagles. This is whatever. But
yes.
I expect them to take care of business, even if it is a slow start. I still.
So part 2 of the AFC South Classic for the Dallas Cowboys. Houston, and next week it ends in Jacksonville with the Jaguars. So these are games that we're expecting the Cowboys to win.
Don't forget the Titans.
But there's like 3 in a row.
Oh, 3 in a row. I thought you meant like just
no.
in general.
You got the Indy. Houston.
We got the Eagles too.
Yeah.
That kind of breaks it up.
You think that they could be the AFC South champions? Like, you think they have
get in the playoffs like
the
that?
Trophy.
Get a first round bye.
Just get like a hat that says like it's AFC.
I just want to see the Governor's Cup presentation, man.
How many people? Okay. At the stadium, we'll say they're rounded off to 90,000. 90,000 people at that stadium, if there's that many. How many people do you think even know that there is a Governor's Cup or what the Governor's Cup is? Out of 80,000. Do you think it's even 10,000?
I think it's 100.
I was going to say, I do think it's in the hundreds.
It's about like that Lone Star boot that they play for between the Rangers and the Astros. Nobody knows. Like, oh yeah,
I've heard of it.
That.
I've never actually seen it. Does
it
exist?
Yeah,
it's an actual trophy.
Yeah,
and you get to keep it at the end of the year.
Yeah, it basically just lives in Houston. He lived in Houston for almost a decade these days. So,
but when they're trying to win a different trophy, like do you think they care about that one?
Yeah. It's like, thanks.
Yeah.
Just put it on over there. Yeah, no, you're right about that. Hey, let's take a break. When we come back, 7-7 is out on the field. I'm excited about it, but unfortunately, in my last podcast, these guys are down on it. But we'll check in with John Machota and Nick Eatman as Tyron Smith nears return to the lineup for the Dallas Cowboys. This is the Media Mash on DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
What do you call a group of grown men and women with their faces painted silver and blue who get together every week to share a 3-hour-long ritual of jumping, singing, and toasting Miller Lite in 10-gallon hats while yelling, "How about them Cowboys?" You call it Miller time in Dallas. Here's to the Cowboys. Here's to the original light beer. It's Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. 2021 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
When you build, you start with the foundation. And home ownership is a foundation of a stable future. The Bank of America Community Home Ownership Commitment has helped over 34,000 people lay the groundwork so far, with up to $10,000 towards your down payment or 3% of the purchase price, whichever is less. The satisfaction of owning your own place can become a reality. Visit bankofamerica.com/homeowner to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America N.A. Equal Housing Lender. Credit and collateral is subject to approval. Restrictions apply. This is not a commitment to lend.
The season is finally here. For months, we've been gearing up to win. Now it's time for the team that performs on any field. United Ag and Turf. With John Deere zero turns for mowing, compact tractors for loading, mini excavators for digging, Gator utility vehicles for hauling, implements for grading, hay tools for baling. United Ag and Turf. For winning. The official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com for more.
Back to Media Mash.
Media Mash, John Machota of The Athletic. You got Nick Eatman here of DallasCowboys.com. I'm Newey Scruggs. All right, my previous podcast, I spoke about Tyron Smith is back. And Mike McCarthy's like, Tyron Smith practicing. That's a good thing for the Dallas Cowboys. But Danny McCray and Barry Church are like, come on, man. You know you can't trust him. He says it's not right because you had Tyler Smith playing well. Your offensive line is playing well, giving up some of the least amount of sacks in the game. Why mess with the chemistry? Why do that? I said they want their best five. And if you're going to go into the playoffs, you know what? Tyron Smith, they believe, gives them the best five guys. So it's 2 against 1 by myself. Still rolling with 7-7. So start with you, Nick. Your thoughts?
I think you could say best five. I think what if you said I want my best 2? I mean, I think he'd be in there. I think it'd be him and Zach like it's always been. Until he's just not that guy. Until he's not that guy anymore. But let him prove to you that he isn't. And I think what Tyler Smith has done this year has been amazing. I mean, like, he didn't practice at left tackle. He's playing guard. He was rotating at guard. And then all of a sudden now you're the left tackle, and he played pretty well based off the expectations you have for him as a rookie that hasn't practiced there all year, that gets a lot of holding penalties. He's been pretty good. But I don't think he's been Tyron Smith good. So I want to see if Tyron, because we're judging Tyler that way based off of what you expect. The last 3 years, we've judged Tyron Smith based off of what he's been his first 5 years of his career. It's like, he's kind of losing it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, he's had a lot of room to dip down, and he's still pretty dang good. And he was a Pro Bowler last year, missed some time. Let's see what he looks like this year. I got a little bit of glimpse of some things in practice. I'm not going to go into detail. I saw some stuff, and I'm telling you, he's one of your best five. Let's put him out there. Whenever he's fully ready, he needs to get out there.
The only way I'd have an issue with it is if he gets out there and we know it. I mean, forget us, but the coaches know, like, man, he's not playing on that level. But then they keep having him out there because he is Tyron Smith in name. That's when you have an issue. Okay. But if he's one of your best five players, and he doesn't have to be Tyron Smith of 5 or 6 years ago, but if he's playing well at left tackle, you leave Tyron Smith out there. And you figure out at left guard if it's, it looks like it's going to be Tyler Smith, but if he has issues there, then hey, you adjust to it. But I just think that what Tyron Smith has done and what he's capable of still doing, he deserves every opportunity to get back out there. And let's be honest, he doesn't have any position flex. It's not like you're going to be like, oh, well, we'll move him into left guard and we'll let Tyler Smith stay out at left tackle. No, you're not doing that. Put him out there. The guys that, like the Dak talking about him today, it was good to hear him out there grunting again, because that's when he knows that, Tyron Smith's out there doing his thing. That the veterans on this team trust in what he can do, and he deserves the right to be able to show that. Now, if he's out there and he's not playing up to that level, well, then that's up to the coaches to go, hey, we got to go back to what we were doing before. But then let's be honest, there's a decent chance that he gets back out there and then something else happens. Sure. Because this isn't 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 year. I mean, this has been going on for a while where it's been one
over
thing.
half decade.
And it hasn't been just one thing. There's been a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So I think that eventually your body gets to a point where, hey, he's had a lot of wear and tear because he's been in this league since he was a really young dude. And it's obviously caught up with him. And he's trying to, take it down the home stretch. He'd love to end his career probably with a Super Bowl ring.
He and it kind of surprises me a little bit that Barry Church would say that, because Barry is a guy that had an Achilles injury, and he fought like hell to get back out there and play, and they signed him to a contract as soon as he had that injury. Good faith. It's like, you're going to come back. We're going to, and he was a really good player. What is Tyron Smith doing for the last 3 months? Well, a lot of people said he's done, man. He ain't going to come back this year. Jerry said it, and Jerry got laughed at for saying that. And here he is in the meat of the schedule, exactly like he just said. And here's Tyron Smith. And Zeke said it yesterday in his press conference. I feel sorry for the defensive guys that he's kind of throwing around. I'm telling you, I saw it. I saw one play of what he was talking about where, man, he looks pretty dang good. So he deserves that right. He's been your franchise left tackle Hall of Famer. Show me that you're not that guy before I say, I don't want to mess up Tyler Smith's development.
One of the things that I spoke about was giving trust towards Joe Philbin. I mean, we saw the first game. They didn't have any of the guys they expected, So it was right out of the gate. The first game, whole new lineup. Then second game, because McGovern got hurt, you had to put Farnock out there. So you spent the first 3 weeks of the season, juggling lineups here. And they've continued to move the lineup around a little bit. We saw where Jason Peters would play some left tackle. You put Tyler Smith over here at left guard. They haven't missed a beat. We haven't looked at this offensive line and said, you're the problem here. In a league where offensive line play is a serious problem.
And what you just said also happened. That included with 5 games of a backup quarterback. But sorry, go on.
Yeah. So if the Cowboys are telling you this is what we plan to do, why not trust them? Because so far, I think they've earned it.
Well, but people will say this. This is a very popular take. It happened a lot with Zeke last year. So you bring up Philbin. What if Philbin wants to stay with what he's got right now, but he's being told, no, Tyron goes back in there? I'm not saying that that's the case, but a lot of fans believe that a lot of these decisions are made because Jerry Jones is like, no. When 77's back, he's out there. I don't care what the coaching staff says. 77 will be out there. So as long as Joe Philbin is this is who he wants in. I'm on the side of the coaching staff on this. Whoever they want out, their best 5, they've, to your point, proven that they deserve to have the say.
Terrence Steele last year. Yeah. I was one of those guys. I was one of those Collins guys.
Yeah.
Collins back there.
Biotish too. I mean, for me, I was one where I thought they needed to upgrade at center, and I don't hear anything about Biotish. I mean, other than some good things. I mean, he moves people, and the shotgun snaps have been great. You do not see that as an issue, and that was one of his things his rookie year. Was the shotgun snaps were not good enough, and that's why Looney played a lot over him. But he's cleaned that up. He's cleaned up some of his penalties. I don't think he gets knocked back that often. I think he's been a really good player. And another guy, Philbin, has developed. Tyler Smith too. McGovern as well.
The Terrence Steele one will always be the one for me because, to Newey's point, it's not only with Biotish. You're kind of, what are other options you have? Frederick's gone. You don't have a lot of they tried working out tons of guys to be backup, and they can't even come close. So you're forced to do it. With Terrence Steele, you did have Lyle Collins there, and most people, myself definitely, thought, come on, what are you doing? You got to put Lyle back at right, and they didn't. And now they got a guy who will probably be the Cowboys' right tackle for a long time. And it's an undrafted guy that everybody obviously passed on.
And another, when we talk about, your roster, another guy you're going to have to try to get to a contract here soon, and he's going to make a nice payday. So
it doesn't sound like his agent is ready for, or his I don't know who his agent is, but it sounds like it's not one of those like, hey, remember when we signed you and we made you a starter, and how about we do a 3 or 4 year? No. They know what the deal is. They know he's already a top 10.
Straight cash, homie.
Top 10 right tackle in the league. And, he's going to be tough. I don't know about tough to sign, but, I mean, he's not going to be cheap.
So you're making sure you're not giving any of that extra money to a wide receiver that's not currently in the building.
You can't. I mean, and I give the Cowboys credit for looking that way. Like, this was one, hey, come in and help us this year. Somebody said it. Oh, he's cleared. OBJ's cleared. He's ready to go. And that's what got everything kind of stirring the pot again. When in reality, it's like no team has said he's cleared,
Right.
And he isn't. And then now you're looking into next year, and the Cowboys wouldn't be in the market for older wide receivers who don't play special teams that want a lot of money. They're not going to be in. They're going to have enough. They got 20 free agents on this roster, and if you just go through the list of 20 free agents, about 15 or 16 of them, you'd say, man, I'd like to have him back. You're not going to get them all back.
Yeah.
And I also look at how they got saved by Randy Gregory, deciding not to take that money, and then they divvied the money up. And while they were heavily criticized when they said, well, we're going to put it towards these 3 players, you're so happy Randy Gregory decided to take the $70 million because Dorrance Armstrong with 8 sacks right now. You got Fowler at 5 sacks, and then you got young Sam Williams here who, imagine what he could be with a full offseason and a better understanding
of
national
helps here, too,
football.
a lot is your coaching staff. That you have a coaching staff, and in this case is on the defense, that has identified guys that work in their system, and, hey, make sure you bring back these guys. And then when those guys are taken care of, whether it's guys that they sign, trade for, or add through the draft, they get on the field and they do the things that the coaches, I'm obviously talking about Tristan Hill and Taco Charlton. You can have a coaching staff that really wants guys, and then they get there and you're just like, whoa, that's not what we thought we were getting at all.
And don't forget too about when you're talking about Dan Quinn and him developing guys. I mean, don't forget that Randy Gregory was in that same boat.
Yeah.
He had his best year of his career under Dan Quinn in last season, and that was what kind of helped him get that contract. And the Cowboys were certainly willing to do it, but I mean, he's never had a year the way Dorrance Armstrong is having this year. And I think on top of the 8 sacks, that's even more impressive, is that he's blocked
Special teams,
3 kicks. The one in the game the other day went through, but if that thing trickles down and goes short, that would have been his 3rd blocked kick because he's got his hand on it. It just went through. It doesn't count as a block. He's blocked a punt and a field goal, and then he got his hand on a 3rd one.
That's interesting. I didn't know that it didn't count as a block.
I don't think it counts.
It makes sense.
It's a
It makes sense 'cause
deflected
it went
pass.
through,
It's
yeah.
kind of like a receiver deflecting the pass, but he still catches
True.
it. You don't
That's
call
a good
that.
point. Yeah.
But
I didn't know that.
But I mean, who can have 8 sacks and do all that?
Yeah.
Terrence Steele's restricted this year, right?
Restricted.
Okay.
Probably put the 1st-round tender on him.
Okay, so you put the 1st-round tender on him and you franchise Pollard right now if you don't get a deal done.
I don't know what that number is for running back.
12.
12, yeah.
12.6, I believe, is what it is, what Chris Beam had looked up for. So I'm just looking in terms of just like, okay, right now, what would you do with your money?
See, I think Pollard, I could be wrong here, but you do that with Pollard, but you might get an opportunity to give him 3 or 4 year deal with more guaranteed, not 12 per year, but maybe more guaranteed money. And as a running back going into his 5th year, he might be smart to do that because when running backs, when it ends for them, it ends quickly.
Right.
And it could be his 5th year, and all of a sudden it doesn't go well. They draft a running back, he gets more snaps, and then now what? So he might look at, we'll sign the franchise tag, but a long-term deal that's less than $12 million a year, but still gives you more guaranteed, might be something.
But
to
the
think
thing
about.
that you get into is, what if he is this? There's still so much of the, you talk about the meat of the season coming up. What if he's just a monster, like in the playoffs, like multiple big runs, things like that? Like to the contract to what you're talking about might even be like, well, we can't even do that. So that's when I think the franchise tag comes in because you cannot let him leave the building. I'm just saying, if he's making these game-breaking plays, and they're winning playoff games with him, they're not letting him leave the building.
No, I'm not saying let him leave. I'm saying do the franchise like you're talking about. But when he thinks about it over the summer, like, all right, do I want to go into another contract year?
Yeah.
I mean, $12 million a year, but what if they're offered me $9 million a year for 5 years?
Yeah.
With $30 million guaranteed, I'm like, right now I have $12 million guaranteed.
Yeah.
He might consider doing that because running the life expectancy of running backs isn't the same.
Hey, look, I thought Dalton Schultz would get a multi-year done. So, he had a number in mind. So this is where the agents play into. But when I bring up that number for him in the franchise, I just think to myself, at minimum, I know he's in the building.
Yeah.
Just that. Like that's the one guy who's going to come up that hey, you can't get out of.
You got that budgeted right now. I mean, that's what it is. $11 million, or now you're asking for 12. You're not going to keep Schultz. I wouldn't think, not with these 2 young tight ends, and I don't think there's a need for another. I mean, they played pretty well without him. I like Schultz, but I'm just saying I don't see.
But it's also one of those things where you don't get to keep every single person that you like. You have to look at the roster and be like, yeah, we're going to drop down a little bit, but I'd rather drop down this little notch here than if we do this move over here and we lose all of this, So you're not going to get everybody back. Goes back to what he said earlier about Malik Davis. Yeah, no one's sitting here and saying that he is the best running back on the team and he should be getting, but you're going to have to make some difficult decisions along the way when you're paying Dak Prescott what you're paying him, and you're going to be paying Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs and CeeDee Lamb and all these other guys that are paid amongst the highest of their positions.
Terrence Steele.
I'm a huge fan of what Dalton Schultz has been able to do when he came out of Stanford. They've now shown they have a formula and they can identify tight end talent here that fits what they want. And
Linda Wells has been a great coach.
Yeah.
I mean, he has done a great job of developing guys.
So you're just going to do that again. I mean, so it'll be a conversation, most likely. The adults say, hey, look, we love you. We appreciate you. Thank you. And he's going to want to go get his bag somewhere.
Yeah,
and they're going to be some teams who are going to give him the contract he wants. And the Cowboys are going to have to, because of the way the roster is set and who they have to pay, go out and just, who's coming out in the draft as form as a tight end?
Yeah. I was going to say it, too, about Dalton Schultz. Ton of respect for him, for how he's handled this year. Been a frustrating year with the injury and wanted a contract. Here are these young guys, and they're going around, and they're lassoing each other, jumping in the kettle and all that. He's right there with them.
Right.
He's not big boying them like we've seen other veteran tight ends do with younger tight ends, because he's like, no, I mean, I get it, you're trying to take my job, but you have it right now, and we're all in one room, and we're going to have some fun. And he's handled this in a very, very mature way, and I have a lot of respect for him. I don't know if he's going to be here next year, but hopefully he'll get paid pretty nicely.
What you're saying right there, that gets around. That gets around when people are sitting out here talking about, doling out contracts and teams are going to ask because, surely somebody, there are no secrets in this league. So somebody's going to call Mike McCarthy or Linda Wells and he's going to be able to say, hey man, guy was not happy. He wanted a deal, but boy, look at the growth. These guys were able to look at him. He taught them. He did his part. So hopefully it works out for him. Kind of like think about Alex Smith and everything Alex Smith did for Patrick Mahomes with Kansas City and helping him get along here. And then Andy Reid tried to do as best they could for him. They sent him to Washington. They gave him a deal up there. Unfortunately, he got hurt, but he got the contract he needed. And it was kind of like, hey, he was rewarded for being a good guy. And I would like to think that could happen for Dalton Schultz as well. But they just can't pay everybody because they got some really good football players they're trying to keep around here. Hey, let's get another break in here. When we come back, because Clarence was here yesterday, we didn't really dive into this whole thing. I want to dive in. Brett Maher. What Brett Maher has done, and what do we think as we go forward? You get ready for the Philadelphia game and go to the playoffs. His importance for this football team. Let's dive into that with Nick Eatman, John Michaud. I'm Nick Schwartz. This is the Media Mash on DallasCowboys.com radio.
The season is finally here. For months, we've been gearing up to win. Now it's time for the team that performs on any field, United Ag and Turf. With John Deere zero turns for mowing, compact tractors for loading, mini excavators for digging, Gator utility vehicles for hauling, implements for grading, hay tools for baling. United Ag and Turf, for winning. The official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com for more.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
This week! Did you get to work on time?
Yeah, but I just realized it's Sunday.
Little Sweet says head on home. Dr. Pepper's on its way. So sweet, unique. Baby, there's nothing better. I bet you've probably done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper. Did you invest your nest egg in an NFT?
Yeah, and I don't even know what that is. It's a non-fungible token.
Everyone's done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper.
When you build, you start with the foundation. And home ownership is a foundation of a stable future. The Bank of America Community Homeownership Commitment has helped over 34,000 people lay the groundwork so far, with up to $10,000 towards your down payment or 3% of the purchase price, whichever is less. The satisfaction of owning your own place can become a reality. Visit bankofamerica.com/homeowner to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America N.A. Equal Housing Lender. Credit and collateral is subject to approval. Restrictions apply. This is not a commitment to lend.
Back to Media Mash.
Mash right here on a Thursday. Nick Eatman, DallasCowboys.com, the originator and ungraded. You got John Machota of The Athletic. I'm Newey Scruggs. The past 2 games, they have not needed Brett Maher. They just not needed Brett Maher at all. It's been killing my personal fantasy team. But you're getting toward the end here, and once you start talking about the playoffs, you need a good field goal kicker. And I just think this is a really underrated story of this team, considering how scared we all were at training camp just to stand underneath those trees because these kickers, you had to actually have fans say, hey, duck, watch out. They're kicking. Guys, turn around. They're kicking.
One guy couldn't get it to the trees. I mean, seriously, and the trees are 15 yards behind the goalposts. We're talking like extra points. I mean, there wasn't always getting it to the trees.
My thing is, okay, it's first of all that you had these other kickers that you went into camp with. He was not one of which, and he's not on anybody's team. With how well he's kicked this year, that's the thing. Like, this looks like something where, maybe somebody cut this player going in because they're like, hey, we drafted a kicker, so we got to kind of get rid of him, but he's solid. Like, no, this guy was on the street. He didn't have a job at all. And then this way he's performed this year. So, I don't know. There's part of it you got to think it's got to be a little bit of luck involved, I would think.
But I did understand. For a minute, it wait, he was with New Orleans last year, but then I forgot.
Right.
Will Lutz was hurt. And Lutz is a good kicker. Mm-hmm. But man, it's one of the underrated stories. And obviously, kickers don't win comeback players of the year or anything like that. But in terms of us covering the Cowboys, you could not have seen a guy who left out of here with, it was like good riddance. Mm-hmm. Get this guy going. And when he came back.
I feel like maybe not to that level, but don't you feel it was a little bit like that with Zerline?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody really wanted to see.
It's always that way with the kicker. Really? I mean,
you're right. Yeah. So, but when he came out, I was like, really? Remember, we were at camp like that. Maher? This is
down
it.
This road. Yeah.
Right. And the way he's performed, he's been
the flip
clutch.
Side of it is that you look at Garibay and how bad he was. You're just like, how did he even get an invite? And there were portions of this offseason where he was the only kicker. Like that so obviously they knew, hey, this will be our only kicker right now, but there are other options we can go with. Yeah. But I honestly, full disclosure, thought this was going to be a little bit of a merry-go-round. I thought we were going to see multiple kickers this year.
I did.
Isn't it funny how, like, when you think about your special teams, you've got about 4 guys that are always kind of in the mix. Here you got your punter, your kicker, your deep snapper, and your returner. And 3 of those 4 guys were not even with the Cowboys or on an NFL roster when training camp began. I mean, Kevontae Turpin was not on anyone's team.
Correct.
Right.
And neither was Overton. And obviously with McQuaid getting hurt, they brought him in. And Maher wasn't on the team either. And Overton's just been good. I mean, just solid like all snappers typically are. But, I mean, Maher's been outstanding, and I think Kevontae Turpin's one of the more underrated players on the team. I really do. I think he's become a weapon. Doesn't even have to have the ball in his hand. I think on punt returns, you see a lot of short punts now, high punts, not just kicking it deep and letting him go and getting all excited in the crowd, getting into it. You don't see that a lot. I think what he's already put on tape is helping this team without even seeing it.
Sure. My thing with as good as Maher's been all year, I'll just keep going back to that, the 60-yarder that gets, doesn't count, review in Minnesota right before halftime. And for him to come back out there and kick an even better kick from 60 yards, I don't know that we would have seen that from him in years past. And I don't know, when they signed him, I did not look at him as a guy that I would have been super confident if he comes out there, 40-yard field goal to win the game. But now, I'm fully confident that to put him out there in any of those situations.
So, safe to say, we're all in agreement, Cowboys win this game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So that makes 10 wins. And that would be back-to-back 10-win seasons for the first time since 1997, when Barry Switzer I should say 96.
Oh, yeah.
96 when the Cowboys.
I was going to correct you on
Cowboys
that one.
went 10-6. Sorry, in 97 they went 6-10.
6-10.
But 10-6, 1996 Dallas Cowboys team. And
they're going to have to win 11 games this year, just so all those people that are like, well, there's an extra game. They can't go 10-7. They're going to have to win at least 11 games for it to.
10-7 would be the wheels falling off.
No question, but it still would be a stat in that book for sure that was the first time.
I think if this team is anything short of,
13.
Well, I think you could be 13-4, and there'll be some excitement going into the season.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
if you're 12-5.
Especially if we're factoring in a potential end of games, end of season game that doesn't mean much. I don't.
Yeah, that one's going to be tricky because it'll mean something for Washington.
Yeah.
But what I see happening is I see the Cowboys being one game behind Philly.
Yeah.
And you have to play it because Philly could lose.
Yeah, in case
and
they lose,
then if they do lose, you're going to win the tiebreak.
Yeah.
If you beat Washington, so they're going to have to go in and play. Half-heartedly keeping one eye on.
But in your scenario, then they would go 14-3. That would be wild.
Well, maybe Philly's going to lose a couple times. I think Philly's got another loss in them, and the Cowboys loss. I do.
I don't. I think they have one loss left in them. I really do. I think it's going to be the Cowboys, but I don't think they're going to lose any of those games to the Giants.
The Giants.
The schedule is just not that.
It's not.
When they plowed through the Titans the way they did, I was like, damn, that's one of them that they.
Yeah.
And then to escape, I guess, the way they did against Indy.
Yeah.
That was like, yeah, those are the ones that probably had to be lost.
Let's see what the weather looks like in Chicago. Don't they play at the Bears?
I think so. Yeah.
That could be an interesting game.
Yeah.
You never know. Bears are tricky.
Checking the roster here on the 96 Cowboy team.
Here we go.
Let's go.
Herschel Walker was on that team.
Sure. I would not have guessed that.
That's right. So just looking at some of the names here. So Herschel Walker was on the team. Dion obviously was on the team. But your starting defensive guys, Tony Tolbert, Chad Hennings, Leon Lett, Shante Carver, Charles Haley, Hervin McCormick, Broderick Thomas, Randall Godfrey, Fred Strickland, Aaron Smith, Kevin Smith, Deion Sanders, Darren Woodson, Brock Marion, George Teague.
I wasn't down here at the time. Was the feel that they still had, because you read off those are a lot of great players there. Was the feel like, hey, they could still get back to another one? Or in 96 were you already
tell you about
like,
that?
Nah,
Can I tell you about that season? That's a little different season. Michael Irvin was suspended the first 5 games of the year. That's why Dion started at wide receiver, which I think is still one of
5 starts.
One of the most underrated feat in NFL. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And he played, and then when Michael came back, they started, getting going. I think they were 2-3 in those first 5 games, but had a huge win against Philadelphia in that 5th game. And then Irvin was in the building at 12:01 back, and they got it rolling. They went 10-6. But late in the year, Leon Lett got suspended. He was playing great football. He got suspended, and that kind of set him back. But a lot of people believe that they went to Carolina,
right?
And they played in the playoffs. And Irvin got hurt in the first drive. Dion got hurt in there as well, and they didn't win. And
I just feel like looking at it back now, it's easy to sit there and say they would. But I'm saying if you had just experienced, 92, 93, 94, 95, I find it hard to believe that at the time people weren't feeling like, yeah, all you need is just like to make this move or this guy's, and then we're going to be right back in it. I find it hard to believe that people were like, just blow this thing up. They're not going to get back there again.
No, the way they played, because the way they won their playoff game against Minnesota was like, this team's ready to get it back going.
45-15.
Yeah.
It's a big win. And then, so you lose to Carolina, as you said, 26-17, you lose in Charlotte, and then Carolina ends up losing that next week.
So when did they finally, because I obviously wasn't down here then, when did you finally, you were like, nah, it's done?
97.
Yeah.
97, they were 6-10. And they were like 6-5. And then lost 5.
Never any feel that, hey, just if they go make this move or that move, they can maybe.
Well, then 90. I was just telling this story to somebody the other day about a toe injury. In 98, this team was 8-3, and Dion got hurt, and he hurt his toe, and he didn't play. I don't think the rest of the season until the playoffs. But that's when Randy Moss Thanksgiving Day game came in, and people kind of forget like that. Cowboys were 8-3. They were a really good team that year. Vikings were just incredible. And they didn't have any corners because Dion was hurt and Kevin Smith I think was hurt. They didn't have anybody that day, and but that was a good team. But when Dion got hurt that whole season, they limped to the finish line and they lost it in the playoffs.
All right, fun times, man. Appreciate it. Nick Eatman, John Machota, and then we scratch the Media Match. We'll do it again on Tuesday right here on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!